Yes, the relay on YouTube. Check it out. Lots of stories about me on there. All the boxing facts and info that you want in a very entertaining, educational manner. The relay. Check it out on YouTube.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay where we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A welcome bit of news that arrived late yesterday. Mikaela Mayer's lightweight debut lands on the undercard of Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang.
The fight with former two-time WBO champion Christina Linardatou.
A common opponent between Mikaela and her old buddy, Alicia Baumgartner, the only woman to hold a professional victory over Alicia. She gave Alicia her first loss some years ago.
Some years later, she's going to be sharing the ring with Mikaela.
The fight will be at the Kappa Box Arena in the Hackney Wick section of London. The first time Mayer will be fighting since she lost the WBO and IBF titles in a split decision to Alicia Baumgartner in England in October. The fight will be on ESPN Plus, and a source said a formal announcement will be made soon. It will be the second fight for Mayer in the United Kingdom, where she has grown in popularity over the past 3 years because of her fighting and also her commentary work for Sky Sports between her own fights. Mayer, a 32-year-old native of Los Angeles, had never fought outside the United States before her fight with Baumgartner. She decided to move up in weight after Baumgartner decided not to give Mayer a rematch, and Hyun-Mi Choi decided not to fight her.
Strange placement for the match, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not complaining, but an American fighter, an American national versus a Greek fighter of Dominican descent on the undercard of a UK show.
At the Kappa Box Arena in Hackney? Yeah, it is a little strange.
Especially that it's a Frank Warren show. Frank Warren, he ain't got an entire stable of Valkyries like, say, Sky Sports, Boxer, or Matchroom.
The audience that takes in a Frank Warren show are perhaps not as accustomed or conditioned to seeing a female fighter in action as, say, the audience that consumes a Sky Sports and Boxer show or a Matchroom show.
Because Frank ain't got that many female fighters. In fact, he's only got one under contract.
Mikaela Mayer, 32-year-old native of Los Angeles, had never fought outside the United States before her fight with Baumgartner. Mayer decided to move up in weight when Baumgartner decided not to give Mayer a rematch, and Hyun-Mi Choi decided not to fight her. The WBA has since named Choi the champion in recess in the division, which allowed Baumgartner to become the undisputed champion at 130 pounds after she beat Elham Mekhaled on May 4th in New York, a fight Mayer attended. Mayer instead has moved to lightweight, where the undisputed champion is Katie Taylor.
Katie's supposed to be fighting Amanda for a second time in May.
With this, you get the sense that what Mikaela may be trying to do is position herself to face the winner of that fight as the winner of that fight's mandatory challenger. She's not just rebounding off a loss here, she's trying to move up those ranks.
This fight with Christina, it's a good fight.
Mikaela Jocelyn Mayer will have a tough fight against Linardatou, the former WBO junior welterweight champion and the only person to have beaten Baumgartner as a professional. Linardatou's 2 losses came to Katie Taylor and Delphine Persoon, both in title fights. Linardatou took a 2-year absence from the ring to have a child and returned in July of 2022, winning a unanimous decision over Alexandra Vujovic before taking the fight with Mayer.
Mikaela's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 3, actually.
She's set to rebound off the loss to Alicia Baumgartner.
That's 1.
I believe that she is attempting to get into position to challenge Katie Taylor as her mandatory challenger by facing a 2-time WBO champion.
That's 2.
Mikaela Mayer still is a top-rank fighter, and top-rank Uncle Bob, he's always had a way with the WBO.
And she's fighting Christina Linardatou, the only woman who holds a professional victory over Alicia Baumgartner.
That's 3. There is a redeeming quality to this fight, a redeeming value, that if Mikaela can go in there and succeed against Christina where Alicia could not,
Did not, and they never had a rematch.
not only will that help to get Mikaela Mayer back in the winner's bracket, but she can always lord that over Alicia and say that she beat Christina where Alicia,
She didn't.
the fight between Mikaela and Alicia, it was a close fight, a tight fight, a competitive fight. Competitive enough, at least, that some people felt Mikaela won, some people felt Alicia won.
And a sizable portion of both want to see a rematch, want to see a second fight.
I think this is Mikaela's way of helping to build it. And even though she lost to Alicia, it didn't hurt her stock too much. Not too much, because it was a competitive loss in a competitive fight.
Though it is interesting that both times that Mikaela's fight was scheduled and subsequently rescheduled, it was set to happen abroad, not in America.
It's not like Top Rank isn't doing shows. They're doing shows, and it ain't like they ain't got shows coming down the pipeline. They do.
Shows in America.
Yet initially, Mikaela's fight was set to go down on the undercard of Taylor versus Catterall 2. That fell apart, so they moved it to Joyce versus Zhang.
From Sky Sports to BT, Bob Arum, Top Rank, they've got a relationship with both.
Now, I love the addition of this match to the Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang fight, the co-main event to the main event, because, let's be honest, Frank Warren's undercards, they are rather forgettable.
They usually are, yeah.
It does feel like there's something to be said. Mikaela boxing on a Boxer show, potentially then ending up on a Queensberry show instead of a Top Rank show here stateside.
Top Rank has fights coming up.
Does feel like they're outsourcing her.
In any event, it's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it, and it is a welcome addition to Joyce versus Zhang, because I reiterate, Frank's undercards, they're highly forgettable.
They usually are, and this fight isn't. The fight between Mikaela and Christina. In other news, DAZN officially announced its U.S. price increase, a price hike, a noticeable one that's being met with some adverse reactions. A Twitter user that goes by the name Euler Rodriguez said, "I was comfortable paying $100 a year, hell, even $150, but $224? I'm done."
Michael Monterio of Ring Magazine says, LOL, that has to be fake. They're not that dumb.
Oh, they might be. This price hike is coming on the heels of recent news that the price for the DAZN platform would be going up in the United Kingdom. It goes up substantially, even more, in the United States.
We pay a lot more than the Brits do.
In fact, out of all the different territories DAZN is available in, I think it's most expensive to the American consumer. Kenny Keith
Of the boxing rant, he wasn't happy about it.
Kenny said, DAZN jacking up their subscription at $25 per month? That's outrageous. I'm out. Fuck your fights.
Fuck 'em.
I'm not paying.
Fuck 'em.
They're worst in boxing announcers, Eddie's overpaid American seasiders, or their underproduced garbage shoulder programming. Bye, Felicia. Hashtag boxing. Hashtag DAZN.
What do I think about this news?
I think this price hike is steep. I think it's noticeable enough that these guys, they're not wrong for being pissed off, though.
When, if ever, is it a good time to announce a price hike?
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about? You tell me, when is it a good time to announce to your already existing customers that the price is going to be going up? The price for the same thing, essentially.
When is it a good time to do that?
That's the thing. It's never a good time to do that. Irrespective of when, where, and how, it's never a good time to tell your existing customers that they're going to be paying more for the same thing. When I signed on for the annual, it was just $99 a year.
It's the plan I'm currently under.
And it seems that the price for that particular plan has gone up at least 2 times since then, from $150 all the way up to roughly $225 American.
People aren't happy, and they are letting it be known.
Can't say that I'm happy about it either, having to pay 2 times as much as I did when I initially signed on.
So is DAZN still value for money, or are they robbing the consumers?
Are they gouging the fight fans? Well, the only way to answer that question is to compare DAZN to their competitors and what their competitors are charging the consumer.
At a time when many Americans are cutting the cord and subscribing specifically to the platforms they watch the most.
Cable is a thing of the past.
A lot of Americans are subscribing specifically to see the content they watch the most. They don't want the other stuff.
So in the American market, is DAZN still value for money? I'd say the best bang for your buck in America, if you're a fight fan and you watch a lot of boxing, the best bang for your buck at this point based on this price hike would have to be ESPN Plus.
A monthly subscription to ESPN Plus or an annual subscription to ESPN Plus is nowhere near as expensive as what it costs to subscribe to DAZN.
Where subscribing to DAZN monthly might run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $24. It only costs about $10 to subscribe to ESPN Plus, and where it might cost you $225 to subscribe to DAZN annually, it only costs you $99 to subscribe to ESPN Plus. So in the value for money
In regards to it, ESPN Plus for an American fight fan is the most bang for your buck you can get, the most value for money platform.
they've got a pretty solid schedule of fights. All the fights you get by way of Top Rank, Yvonne Michelle, Eye of the Tiger Management. Recently, they announced that they've picked up the Taraji versus Gonzalez unification flyweight title fight.
Over there in Japan, as well as the Inouye versus Fulton super bantamweight title fight.
They're going to be showing that here in America by way of ESPN Plus as well. And don't forget the upcoming Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang show set to go down in the United Kingdom.
Usyk versus Fury, if they get that fight over the line, though, I think they're going to bill that as a pay-per-view.
Haney versus Lomachenko later on this year as well, though they have a solid schedule. In terms of value for money, I'd say ESPN Plus presents the best value for money for the American consumer. DAZN would come in at second.
That's right.
DAZN ranks in as the second best on the value for money meter, because even with this price hike, they're not the most expensive.
If you can believe that, even at $224 for an annual DAZN subscription, they're not the most expensive guys out there.
That's actually Showtime. Showtime takes the cake by and large for charging the fight fan the most to view their fights, to view their content. A monthly Showtime subscription will run you about $10.99 over 12 months.
$98.99 for the yearly.
Month to month, that comes out to roughly $132 if you don't sign up for the annual, which is $32 less.
But that's on top of a series of pay-per-views.
Any halfway decent fight happening on Showtime ends up being billed as a box office fight. And they've got approximately 4 box office fights you'd have to pay an additional charge just to see, on top of your subscription.
Starting in March, you'd have to pay $75 for Benavidez versus Plant, $75 for Garcia versus Davis, $75 again for Spence versus Thurman, and $75 again for Wilder versus Ruiz, which comes out to roughly $300 for just 4 fights. Just 4 fights.
That's basically saying that by way of Showtime, paying for those 4 fights is, in fact, more expensive than paying for an entire year of fights at DAZN.
That's $300 for those 4 fights on top of another $132 just to be subscribed. So what you're looking at is roughly $432.
That is, unless you're some bum and you're gonna fire stick everything and still complain. If you're gonna fire stick everything, then what the hell are you complaining about?
You don't pay for anything.
So when it comes to value for money to the American consumer, the American fight fan, I'd say ESPN Plus ranks in at number 1. They present the greatest value for money. DAZN ranks in at number 2, and Showtime, they're at the bottom. They rank in at number 3.
They're actually the most expensive.
You have to remember that in spite of DAZN's hefty price hike, they don't actually have any pay-per-views scheduled on their current schedule.
And that's not even their whole schedule.
It's not actually all of the Matchroom shows they're going to be doing for the next few months, and that's not even all their boxing content, lest we forget. You've also got Golden Boy Promotions and their shows, like the upcoming Virgil Ortiz versus Amon Stanionis fight.
Whoever Jaime Munguia ends up fighting.
Ryan, if things fall apart between him and Gervonta.
I'm just calling it down the middle. I'm calling a spade a spade. As steep as this price hike is by way of DAZN, they're still not the most expensive.
They're not. 4 fights, 4 box office fights on Showtime costs you more than an entire year's worth of fights at DAZN.
That's how it breaks down.
You end up paying more, much more, for much less at Showtime.
That's how it breaks down.
And don't forget that Showtime's going to do more pay-per-views this year. It's not just those 4.
The year just started.
You don't think they have more pay-per-views en route for the second half, the third and fourth quarter of the year? Believe me, they might.
If they're still in boxing by the end of the year, they will.
So, while I, like many of you out there, am not happy with this price hike, I'm still sticking with the annual plan because it saves you the most money over time.
The annual DAZN subscription. Mine don't re-up till May anyway.
For the most part, with no pay-per-views on schedule, none yet, it still is value for money.
It's not really rocket science, is it? You know, you look at Josh Taylor's with Top Rank, Teofimo's with Top Rank. Top Rank don't want Josh to fight Jack because obviously, what happened in the first fight, they're probably, not mad confident that he'll come out victorious. So, listen, what do you do? Literally, what do you do? There's not a lot you can do. If you're Jack Catterall, you can't sit around waiting forever. He's including the wait around for the first shot, which he'd earned, and he waited a long time for it. And then the sort of time what's happened in between the first fight and the second fight, what should have took place, is a year again. He can't hold his career up now, and I'm not saying Josh he's not injured. I know he's injured.
Sounds like Jamie Moore was backtracking a bit there towards the end of that soundbite because,
well, you heard what he said. You heard what he started out with. That Top Rank doesn't fancy that fight for their champion, their pony in that 140-pound show. And before they put him in there with Jack Catterall for a second time, they'd rather he take on Teofimo Lopez.
a lot of different people are interpreting this fight and what led to it in different ways. I think we can all agree it's a good fight, it's an intriguing fight, and for the most part, the fight itself is getting a positive reaction. But it's
not without an asterisk.
You don't just get to skip out on Jack Catterall like this without arching a few eyebrows. Josh Taylor, he reportedly suffered an injury, and as a result of that, the rematch got delayed. And Jack, he decided he's not going to wait around forever. He's going to take on a fight, and he's supposed to be returning to action on the undercard of Okoli versus Light.
And shortly after that news broke that Jack Catterall would be returning to action without Josh Taylor, lo and behold, Josh has got a fight in the works.
He's fighting Teofimo Lopez, and it makes you scratch your head.
Yeah.
Really makes you wonder if the man is actually injured, or did the higher-ups pull him to the side and tell him, for fighting that guy again and running risks with that guy, why don't you take on Teofimo?
I mean, it sounded a lot like Jamie Moore was saying that they were protecting Josh Taylor from Jack Catterall. That's what it sounded like.
And you know what?
What?
Given how fast they're putting this thing together, this fight between Josh and Teofimo, so soon after the Catterall fight got postponed.
I mean, it all does start to look a certain way.
Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez are both top-ranked fighters. Jack Catterall is not. Jack Catterall is actually with Boxer and Sky Sports, and in some ways, so is Josh. But Josh is a top-ranked fighter.
Jack isn't.
And, maybe what the people at Top Rank want is for the brown belt, the WBO title, to more or less stay on the Top Rank side of things, that if Josh Taylor is going to lose that title to anyone, they want it to be another Top Rank fighter because Jack isn't necessarily with them.
Maybe that's what it is. That sounds like what Jamie was hinting at.
Hypothetically speaking, if you did the rematch between Josh and Jack ended up winning it, Jack's going to be based out of the United Kingdom. And even if you tried to bring him over to the United States, he doesn't really draw here anyway.
For that, you might as well let Teofimo fight Josh.
If Josh wins, that increases his profile in America. If he loses and the belt goes to Teofimo, well, Teofimo's on your side of things anyway. And that sets up a potential Devin Haney fight down the line.
So like I said, Top Rank protecting Josh Taylor from Jack Catterall, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Not completely on board, but I do see what the hierarchy of thought might be.
Why someone would think that.